Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food, and this is where we join each other mostly for the morning briefing with our cup of coffee, and mine is Vita Cup Genius Blend. Yeah, hasn't happened yet, and and we just chit chat about things that are going on in our keto carnivish way of eating, and it just kind of starts the morning. And so you'll usually see me donned in a bathrobe. It's not easy being a bathrobe fashion plate, let me tell you. And so yesterday I went through my inventory of bathrobes. hmm And and so I washed all of them, the summer ones, and then I was a naughty girl and I went to Macy's and put three winter robes aside. I mean, I just can't show up in the same thing every day, can I? How boring is that? And so, and you thought my words were boring. How about the bathrobes, huh? So, anyway, it's been a great week. I'm feeling mighty darn fine doing my carnivish diet. Today, my carbs are zero point 0.9, and the zero point 0.9 carbs are 25 grams of the sweet baby lettuce by Olivia's. And I have on that melted Fourth and Heart ghee and macadamia nut oil. And so I have a wee bit of that. It'll probably be 12 grams of the combined two fats. And I pour that over that. And then I'm having the baby back ribs cooked on the big green egg, along with a chuck steak, just a little wee one like this, nice and fatty, cooked also on the big green egg. And that is my um, OMAD for the day. And I'm very excited. I will show you the macros in a second. And it was funny because I was talking to Miss Joyce on the phone. We are chatty Cathy's on the phone. And she lives in Kansas and I live on Cape Cod. So it's not like we're sharing a cup of coffee. And and so she was saying to me, because she's doing carnivore this week herself, I'm so proud of her. And so she was saying to me just yesterday, um, do carnivores do they like weigh and track their food and stuff like that? And I said, I really don't see them. I know that when somebody asks them, they're being interviewed, like Michaela Peterson was being interviewed, or Amber O'Hearn, or any of the carnivores, but especially the women, because of course I'm curious about that. They say that they have between 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of meat per day. And it doesn't sound like they're weighing and measuring. They just know when they open up the ribeye package and it says 1.3 pounds, how much is in that. And so it's just, kind of interesting because, yes, I am still weighing and measuring and tracking in my chronometer because it's kind of like in my DNA to do that. And so I was just kind of chuckling. And then what happens is I get my coffee before I'm talking to you, so I'm not slurping. And then wiping the drool. So I read my comments underneath the videos. And if you have your own station, you know that somebody can watch something that's 3 years old and their comment will show up if they do it, which happens to me frequently when some trolls get on and start criticizing me from something from 3 years ago. And it's like, it's great. And you can see I'm in a good mood today. And it is 4:51 in the morning. So anyway, in the comments, Jim from Beating Obesity, just for giggles, I guess, put his food into his chronometer yesterday and posted it right after I talked to Miss Joyce. So it's kind of funny. So I guess, yep, there's one. And so he posted his macros. It was great reading them because, I have no idea what other carnivores are eating, like Keto Mad or Jim from Beating Obesity. And so it kind of tickled me to see that because it's like I no sooner, chatted with Miss Joyce about it, and there it was. So today these are my macros, and I am having 1,392 calories. My protein is almost 72 grams. My carbs, as I said, are 0.9 grams of carbs, so not even one. And my fat is 122.1. And so with that, as I said, I'm having my two, fatified coffees during my intermittent fast of the 23 hours, and we have our dinner between 2:30 and 3:30 in the afternoon. My OMAD, so it's perfect. And so it's the beef chuck eye. It is the spare ribs that we cook both of those in the big green egg, and then it's that little salad. And yeah, that's what I'm having, and that makes up for it. So anyway, I was listening to an interview on Biohacker Lab, and if you've never listened to Biohacker Lab, he does such a great job. His name is Gary Irwin, and he is from, I believe, outside of England. But he's quite an elegant gent, and he interviews people, and he just does such a great job. I mean, even if I'm not interested in what the subject matter will be, I am interested because he's conducting the interview and what I learned. I believe he's carnivore himself at this time. And so he mostly interviews carnivore people. But he did interview a man from Vegetable Police. And he was a card-carrying vegan for a long, long time. And it sounds like he's on his journey, so things are always subject to change, the gentleman that he interviewed. And if you go in to see what his videos are, you can see VP as the little icon, the little whatever it is, avatar. And so that's where you can find him, because I'm spacing on his name right now. But suddenly the vegetables stopped working for him, and he was in all different kinds of countries. And I guess when this was taped, he was in Thailand, and he said the weirdest thing is that how hard it is to get beef. And yet, whenever he'd drive by a pasture, there would be all these cows grazing with the grass, which would be like beautiful organic grass-fed beef. And yet he couldn't find it anywhere. So he wondered if Thailand is a big exporter of their organic grass-fed beef, because the market is so, excuse the pun, hungry for it. So his journey has had a lot of ups and downs, and he's had to, when in Rome, do as the Romans type of thing with his food choices. So anyway, it's a fascinating interview, but for the most part, he interviews carnivores and their journey and how they got to being a carnivore and what they do about it. And of course, I would say that probably 98% of us were keto before we became carnivore. It's just the nature of the evolving, wouldn't you say? So he said that he came across this book, and it is The Fiber, oh, I've got a hair here, The Fiber Menace. And it sounded fascinating to me, and it was written a number of years ago, I think 2008, and the man is from Russia, and he has two other published books, but they're both in Russian. And so anyway, I ordered this. Look at the bowl of what he considers fiber doing to our inside. And it's not necessarily veggie fiber so much as what the grains did. But I was totally amused with this. This chapter is called Fiber Carnage. And this was me to a T. It was totally me to a T. And as you know, when I'm in a food plan, like I am my Carnivish, when I follow something, I'm very strict and disciplined and do as the program kind of asks, strongly suggests. Like when I was in Weight Watchers, like when I was in Spark People doing 1,000 calories a day, I kind of glom on to the philosophy concept of the program and just go along with it. And so when I was keto, not Carnivish, I was doing tons of veggies, probably 75 grams of veggies. No sugars or grains, but, what I could do with a bowl of Brussels sprouts or an artichoke, very high carbs, not the starchy ones, not the starchy veggies, just high carb veggies. And so it's a very interesting, what I'm reduced to now. Don't you feel bad for me? No, don't. So anyway, this was from the June 2004 issue of the Mayo Clinic's Woman's Health Source, and what they suggested to increase fiber in your diet. And I probably read this 14 years ago and said, yes, I need more of this. And I trotted off to purchase more and more and more. And I used to buy bran flakes, not the cereal bran flakes, but the regular, just the milled bran flakes. And I would mix it in orange juice. I know. I would mix it um, in my bread. I made this buttermilk, whole wheat, of course, bread. And I would mix it. I would just top it on everything. The flakes kind of look like yeast. What am I thinking of? The yeast flakes that Dr. Berg recommends. But anyway, kind of fascinating. Okay, so here's this issue of the Mayo Clinic for women. And this is how you increase the fiber in your diet. Eat a high fiber cereal or add a few spoonfuls of unprocessed wheat bran to your cereal. And that's what I did. I'd have like cream of wheat or oatmeal or even wheatina. Was that a thing? And add the bran flakes to it, along with the brown sugar. You remember those days, don't you? Add bran cereal or unprocessed bran when making foods such as meatloaves, breads, muffins, cakes, and cookies. I mean, I was following this like a good little girl needing more fiber. Choose whole grain bread instead of white bread. Look for breads made with 100% whole wheat flour. And that was probably my biggest crusade, is like seeing people eat white flour products. And I'm sitting there thinking, aren't you bound up forever? Aren't you so constipated from having this? That, like going to AA and they serve, people bring in boxes and boxes of Dunkin' Donuts or homemade white flour cookies and all that kind of stuff. And I would just like, oh no, you so need to be eating whole wheat bread. Oh God. Substitute whole wheat flour for half or all of the white flour when baking. Yes, I did that. I was the good little girl. Whole wheat pastas. Yeah. Experiment with whole grains and whole grain products such as brown rice, barley, whole wheat pasta, and bulgur. Yeah, and let's not forget, rye and buckwheat and all those sort of things. I would have these buckwheat pancakes, and they would take a quart of real maple syrup because, of course, I'm healthy, and on it to eat. Oh my God. Eat snacks. Oh, there we go. Snacks. You remember those, right? I hope you remember them in a fond way in your past and not today, even if they're keto. You don't need snacks. Every time you eat snacks, you spike your insulin. And just remember what Dr. Fung said, no, period, snacking, period, ever, period. Because having a snack is the same thing as having a great big meal. You're going to be spiking the insulin and the blood sugar. So just avoid it. Get enough with your OMAD or your 2MAD or your 3MAD. So try adding canned kidney beans, garbanzos, and other beans to canned soups or salads. Yeah, I was a good girl. I did all of that too. Chickpeas all over the salad. Oh, yeah. Try adding, wait, where was I? Oh, eat snacks that are high in fiber, such as fresh and dried fruits. Oh, sure. Have you seen the sugar in dried apricots? Do you know how I used to eat them by the handful? Yeah. Raw veggies, low-fat popcorn, and whole grain crackers. Whole grain Triscuits, of course. Whole grain Cheez-Its, of course. I was so good that I was bad, right? I followed all of this. I shopped then like I do now for cuts of fatty meat. Still ever the shopper hoarder of things. Add barley to soups and stews. Well, yeah. My favorite Campbell's soup was beef with barley when I was like a little piggy in the past. And eat generous quantities of vegetables and fruits. So this book is very, very fascinating because it talks about your gut health all the way through the different diseases we have and how and how the doctors slash over-the-counter, medical stuff, like how we're having all those Metamucil, Miralax, and all of those sort of things to be regular. And it's frequently kind of hushed from women because ladies don't talk about those sort of things. But like, what do you do about constipation if you go carnivore? And I will tell you that my first 2 weeks of my Carnivish food plan was brutal. Okay. There are side effects that I never would have had I known, right? And so finally, my body has settled into a regular kind of bathroom routine without getting TMI. And so I'm happy for that. But at first, it was like, is this going to be with me forever? I know that Jim Beating Obesity has mentioned it as well. And so, yeah, there does come a time when it does regulate. I think that adjusting to carnivore with different sort of side effects until you get settled is not unlike giving up grains and sugars, going into keto, and having some rather unspoken, parts about it. And so, lo and behold, this book talks about constipation from eating too many vegetables and how, parents pushing the veggies on their kids, they end up impacted constipation that needs to be operated on. And it's not pretty, and it's a tiny little tummy. And their tummies are like 1/10 the size of ours. And we're pushing that stuff on them. I mean, if you're a mom and you breastfed like I did, then you know that constipation wasn't a problem with the high fat breast milk. So it's very, very interesting. So anyway, it's an old book, but it's quite fascinating about fiber and all that it does. The back alone is what is so menacing about fiber. And it's, the hemorrhoids, the diverticulitis, the chronic constipation, and all of these sort of things, and ulcers, all of these sort of things that as you eat your veggies, and hopefully not your fruits, but your veggies on a keto food plan, you could be exasperating the problem that you have. I know that by reducing my veggies, this is just me. So, you have your own experiment going and you're free to comment, and please do. But reducing my veggies has definitely been healing my gut lining. Giving up red pepper flakes, definitely. Those caused probably so much damage, and I loved hot foods. So, yeah, it is what it is. But somebody did comment to me that they find that having more fats and proteins and more meat wasn't working for them, so they've added back the veggie bulk, and they're much happier and content from it. So we each have our own experiment, n equals 1, and so that's how we learn. So just because I do something like this doesn't mean you need to do something like this. But learning about fiber is fascinating because too much of it, as we load in our Miralax and our Metamucil and our psyllium hulks, all those sort of things can be contributing to constipation, which is wild. It's just wild. So I'm learning stuff that I never did. And the gastrointestinal disorders is like an entire chapter. And it talks about it as fiber carnage. The next chapter is water carnage. And I do believe that sometimes we drink too much water. The next chapter, Atkins goes to South Beach. It's kind of funny. And then another chapter is dysbacteriosis. And it says there are over 400 species of bacteria in the colon. Bacteria make up 30 to 50% of the total dry matter in the feces, or even 75%, according to other calculations. Another chapter is the constipation. And so I'm learning more than I ever thought that I needed to learn. Mickey Mantle, who lived 1931 to 1995. If I knew I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. I never knew who the quote was from, but I knew that quote. And then another chapter is avoiding the perils of transition. So it's kind of funny because the wheat belly helped me get into keto. And it was all about the grains and the sugars, the history of the damage to us and things like that. And now that I'm doing Carnivish with like 0.9 carbs for the day total, I'm going back and just validating why these changes are so healthy for me at this time. So uh, I think I think that this book is a timeless book, even though it's 14 years old. I think the data is incredible. I thank the man from Vegetable Police, that was interviewed by Gary Irwin, biohackerslab.com, for and on YouTube as well, for introducing this book to me. It's very, very valuable. And it certainly answers a lot of my journey here, because there was so much that I needed to learn about the backstory, and how I could have been causing more problems with all that added wheat bran. Anyway, that's it. We've all finished our coffee. It's time to move on. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food with Keto, under 20 total carbs for the day. And if you need that one-on-one, I offer coaching, email, phone, and chronometer at ketocoachingsarah.com, ketocoachingsarah.com. You never know what you can learn about yourself when you take the time to learn about yourself. I'll see you the next time. Bye-bye for now.